Burnout is a real thing, and there should be no guilt or shame attached to understanding that someone may be burnt out. It doesn't change the fact that a parent loves their child or that a parent will do anything for their child. Hi, I'm Falatimi Akinriade. I'm an occupational therapist, and the purpose of this video is to discuss parent and caregiver burnout as it relates to caring and supporting for a child with special needs or any additional accommodations or needs. And when I say caregiver burnout, I mean the state of being exhausted, whether it's physically, emotionally, mentally, by being the main support for your child or your loved one. Part of the reason why I love my job is not just the amazing kids I get to work with, but also I love working with parents. I love seeing so many parents that care for their child and want the best for their child. And I'm also really passionate about helping parents because I feel like sometimes parents go, I don't want to say unnoticed, but I feel like the attention and the care is so much on the child that we forget that parents have feelings, parents have emotions, parents go through their own journeys as individuals, as parents, as caregivers, but then also having this newfound information or having this new life where they have to go through extra steps or extra tasks or responsibilities to help their child with whatever condition or delay that they may have. I had a family that I was working with, and this child ended up getting a diagnosis of autism and a few other things as well. And I set up a meeting with the parents, and when I spoke to them, I said, I am not here to talk about your child. We will talk about that later, and we'll talk about, steps going forward and things that we can work on. But I'm aware that with this newfound diagnosis, you have had a ton of information thrown at you. You're looking up information online. All of it's very overwhelming, and it's all pertaining to your daughter. But I want to know how you're doing. How are you doing with this new diagnosis? The child's still the same child, but how are you doing with getting this information? How are you doing with receiving so much of this information? How are you doing mentally? Are you okay? And I said that is the purpose of this call, is to check on you and to help you process this information, because everyone's so focused on your daughter. Understandably, me too, but I also want to check on how you're doing. Caregiver burnout is one of the biggest, most common things that I see across the board. And the average parent probably goes through burnout as well. But I think that parent burnout while supporting and caring for a child with special needs is a completely different realm that I think is hard for people on the outside to understand what the full dynamic is. So there's mental burnout. So constantly thinking about your child, constantly being on high alert, making sure that the child is safe and is healthy at all times, being able to manage the child's health care or all of the different appointments that may be involved, and even thinking about plans going forward. So school or daycare, or even if you get a babysitter, you can't just choose any random babysitter. You need to make sure that the babysitter can care for your child's needs. And then there's physical burnout. So depending on the challenges that are involved with that child, being able to physically carry them or being able to physically support them in different ways. There's financial burnout, needing to pay for doctor's appointments, pay for therapy appointments, medical supplies, or any additional supplies that the child may need. And then there's social burnout too. So maybe not taking the time out to socialize with other family members or friends. And also sometimes I see parents where they don't even talk with anyone because they feel like people won't understand what they're going through or won't understand the dynamic, or even just being looked at differently, which is extremely unfortunate. But sometimes that happens even though it shouldn't. I think it's important to emphasize and to recognize that burnout is a real thing. And there should be no guilt or shame attached to understanding that someone may be burnt out. It doesn't change the fact that a parent loves their child or that a parent will do anything for their child. Being burned out is truly a person reaching their threshold, whether it be physical or mental energy, in order to support or help that loved one. It has nothing to do with the amount of love you have for your child or the amount of care that you want to put into it. It's just truly your bandwidth. And reaching that bandwidth. People always say that it takes a village to raise a child. And I agree with that. It does take a village to raise a child. But I think what people don't understand or recognize is that not everybody has a village at every point in time of that child's life. And not everybody has the same amount of resources. Not everybody has the bandwidth. Not everybody has the stamina to just keep going, especially if they don't have all of the resources that they may need to be available to them. It's common for burnout to happen. I think that the issue is that when someone realizes that they are burnt out, is what do you do going forward? What are the next steps? If you're burnt out and you don't have any plan for a change or intervention or adaptation in your life, what is that going to look like long term? There has to be a plan going forward so that you or whatever parent or caregiver is working with this child, how are they able to continue to be a caregiver without reaching their physical or mental limits? Even for me as an occupational therapist, I started writing goals for parents and for family members to work on them having the strategies to be able to support the child, because it's not just the child, it's also the parents that are involved as well. I worked with this family, this amazing mother-daughter duo, and the daughter was 4 years old at the time. She had a genetic condition that caused global delays. She also had autism, and on top of that, she had very, very significant digestive issues. This child had a G tube, meaning that she wasn't eating by mouth. It's a tube that attaches to her stomach, and the mom would blend the food, put the blend through the tube that would go straight to her daughter's stomach. And so a lot of that mom's day was preparing this special type of food, giving her, we call them tube feeds, but giving her tube feeds. Tube feeds would take about 2 hours to do at a time, and she was eating about 3 meals a day. And the GI issues was what impacted mom the most. And so it wasn't until I got to the home that I realized that mom would be crouching down for the 2 hours following this girl around in order for her to get her tube feedings in. It's almost like mom was in this duck walk position following her daughter around for 2 hours at a time. And I told the mom, I'm like, you cannot keep doing this. Mom and I have a great relationship. I do not talk with everybody that way, but we developed a good relationship. And I told her, like, crouching down like this for 2 hours at a time is not feasible for your body at all. And this girl's 3-4 years old. As she gets older, this is going to put so much strain on your own body. And we want you to be able to care for your daughter long term. Obviously, the mom was working with a GI doctor about certain things that needed to be done, but we were at least able to explore ways that she could continue to give her daughter the tube feeds while still preventing herself, mom, from injury and strain long term. And we went through so many different pieces. I don't even know which one she ended up sticking with. Again, safely under the doctor's supervision to cater to this child's medical needs. But we talked about having a longer tube available so she's not crouching forward anymore. We talked about mom sitting down while the child's walking around. We talked about putting the feeds in the backpack for the child to be able to move around in. We explored different things. But I think the point is that mom had worked so hard to figure out what worked best for her daughter, which was great and what was needed. But I think the piece is that mom also needed to look out for herself in order to continue to be a caregiver for her daughter. And the example I'm about to use is used all of the time. I assume everyone, or I hope everyone has heard it before. When you're on the airplane, the flight attendant always says, if an oxygen mask comes down, make sure to put the oxygen on yourself first before you put it on the child. And that is the best snapshot of you being a caregiver. You need to be able to take care of yourself in order for you to take care of your loved one and your child. So for final take-home messages, villages can change, villages can ebb and flow. If you need additional help, I highly, highly, highly recommend you speak with your doctor, you speak with healthcare professionals, any family support specialist, anybody that you can think of that you think can be of service to at least help and guide you in the right direction. I highly encourage that. As far as burnout right here and now, think about one part of your day that is very stressful and really sit and think about what is so stressful about that routine or that activity in your day. And then from that, as you're deciphering what that stressful part is, Think about one or two things that you might be able to do differently or try differently that can help take the stressor away. Obviously, and when you do speak with your doctor, your healthcare professional about it, there's some things that can't change, or there's some things that have to be done a certain way, but trying to think around that. Is it even something as simple as sitting down to do whatever task or activity instead of standing up for it? So instead of thinking about the entire day and all the things that are so stressful, what's that one piece that you can change just to make life just a little bit easier? And then from there going forward, adding some other pieces. If you're watching this and you know of anything that has been helpful to you or any support groups that have been helpful, please comment below. There's so many things that seem so simple or basic that a lot of people don't think about. So if we're able to help this community, I think it would be great. For all of the parents and caregivers out there, please know that your work does not go unnoticed. I empathize for you guys, and I applaud the love and the care that you put towards your kids. Thank you all for watching, and you guys got this. You got this.